took full responsibility for his error during a 4-3 defeat to Bayern Munich in the Champions League, calling it one of the worst games I've played, end quote. The Cameroonian international signed on a £47.2 million deal from Inter Milan this summer as a replacement for David De Gea, made a calamitous error after Leroy Sané's shot somehow wriggled under his body for Bayern's opener. The Germans went on to win the Group A opener 4-3, although there was a late fight back from the visitors. However, the damage had largely already been done, and Onana admitted that his start to life at Manchester United has not gone to plan. Onana also made headlines in his Premier League debut when Wolves were not awarded a late penalty after the goalkeeper's foul on Sasa Kalajic. He also let a lob from 45 yards beat him in a pre-season friendly against Lens. Despite his goalkeeper owning up to his error, Manchester United manager Erik ten Hag insisted on collective responsibility with his team defensively poor this season. You know, I've asked this before, others have asked this, but I haven't posed it to you, Victor. I don't know. Is Onana even an upgrade on De Gea? I mean, yes, he's better with his feet. But De Gea, I mean, is he even as good as De Gea with handling the ball? Because it seems error after error, granted, not every player gets into a club, a new team, and settles in immediately, cuts out errors from their games, especially goalkeepers, because I don't know what it is. If it's nerves, if it's electricity, the electromagnetic field around a new goalpost. I don't know what it is, but goalkeepers tend to suffer a lot when it comes to relocating to a new team. A lot of errors tend to happen initially, and I'm asking, is this just the initial settling period, the initial nerves, or have Manchester United sacrificed one goalkeeper who was error-prone for another one who has a different way of causing errors himself?
Okay, I think the first thing we need to look at that is he's playing for one of the most popular football clubs in England and the world. So the spotlight will be on every single position at every single time. I mean, Maguire is suffering from that. Bruno Fernandes will suffer from that. Rashford has suffered from that before in the past. Even David De Gea, when he first came to United all those years ago, wasn't exactly the stalwart he would eventually become. Now, as for the errors, every high-profile goalkeeper in the history of mankind and football has made errors in one way or the other. It's happened before. Every single goalkeeper, the greatest of all time, they've all made errors. However, it's how you
Barthez was famous for them. So was Dida.
Everybody has, exactly. So now Onana is not a bad goalkeeper, to be honest. He's the representation of the modern goalkeeper. We have sacrificed good shot-stopping ability for your ability to play with your feet. That's the reality. Every goalkeeper we have now has to know how to pass the ball first, and then your shot-stopping skills come in as a secondary, skill set. And you look across the board. From Ederson of Brazil, I feel he's not the best shot stopper, but he's good with his feet. In fact, you had Victor Valdez all those years ago with Barcelona. He wasn't the best goalkeeper. He couldn't compare him to Casillas, but he was good with his feet, so he was at Barca. The same goes with Alisson and any other modern goalkeeper you can think of. Even Raya, who has now more or less, the way we are seeing now, benched Aaron Ramsdale at Arsenal, seems to be better with his feet. Same with the goalkeeper at Chelsea, Sanchez. So it's just what modern football is all about. So Onana fits that bill. Now, when it comes to shot stopping, I'll be honest with you, I'll be the first to raise my hand up and say, okay, it seems a bit suspect. He reminds me of Fabian Barthez when he was at United all those years ago as well. Yes, the game against Bayern yesterday night was a high-profile error. In fact, up to that point, United were actually the better team up until that point. And once that ball just went through his fingers, it showed that, okay, his hands were down. Don't forget that United actually at this point are going through some sort of crisis. So even the back four, riddled with injuries, Shaw is in there, Wan-Bissaka is in there, Maguire, whatever you want to say about him, also was out injured. So you have Lindelof, but Martinez, Varane is out injured as well. So they don't have their first, defensive option behind Onana. Like you mentioned, the defensive midfield of United not really the strongest. Casemiro off and on this season. Eriksen was nowhere to be found. So there's so many factors in play. But is he a decent goalkeeper? Yes. Is he the best goalkeeper we've ever seen? I don't think so, because look at his performance last season at Inter. It took him a while to break into that Inter team. And when he first moved to Inter Milan, he was on the bench for a while. Then he slowly built his way to becoming the first choice, then having that fantastic Champions League run that he had. But you also have to understand who are the guys, in front of him at Inter. Don't forget, Inter Milan is a very disciplined team. You can see what they're doing now in the Italian Serie A. They smashed AC Milan 5-1. Sommer had a very horrendous start to life in Bayern last season, but Sommer has had the most clean sheets in the Italian Serie A so far. Doesn't mean he's a different goalkeeper. So it's a lot of factors. Onana is good. He's decent. He's the best goalkeeper Africa has to offer right now after Vicente Yama. But I just feel that he needs to maybe bounce back, and we'll have to see that strength, because we've seen this before at United. They've had good goalkeepers who have been swallowed by the occasion in the past. You had the likes of a guy called Taibi that was only there for like 3 or 4 games before he was sent back by Sir Alex Ferguson. You had Barthez, who one season he'll be super good. Next season he just was, a calamitous display of errors. So
I mean, Dudek had his time at Liverpool and wasn't highly rated because of his errors, and ultimately ended up in Madrid.
Who are we talking about?
Dudek.
I mean, let's be honest with ourselves. When he was at Madrid, he was more or less the second choice.
Yeah.
He wasn't as if he was the first choice
I mean,
in Madrid.
but I do remember a season.
And say, how did that happen?
Yeah. Well, I do remember a season where Iker Casillas was out for a time, and Dudek did show that. But you know what? I speaking of goalkeepers, I keep asking myself, why have we come to, because a lot of people are making a lot of noise about the fact that Arsenal have gone out to buy a goalkeeper that is pretty much either on par with Ramsdale or better overall. But why have we come to this point where goalkeepers are not allowed to have competition? Almost every single player on every single team in every single position is supposed to have competition in their position. Even when a manager might come in and prefer a certain first 11, maybe a spine, a certain group of players start pretty much every game. There is always someone waiting in the wings just looking for an opportunity, and when they get it, they are just as good and just as capable of retaining that position as the person they beat out for it. So, but the goalkeeping position, it seems a lot of people think it will be the undoing of the project that Arteta is trying to build at Arsenal.
Nah, far from it. So this is not the first time we've seen a team have 2 equally good goalkeepers. We've had this in the German national team.
Hello.
And Oliver Kahn. So if you have Ray...
Sorry, we lost you for a bit there. Could you take that back?
Okay, sorry about that. The network is a bit fuzzy here. This isn't the first time we've seen a team have 2 good goalkeepers fighting for that first choice. You had Aaron Ramsdale. You had Oliver Kahn and Jens Lehmann in the German national setup from 04 to 06, right? And of course, we know what happened. Lehmann came up tops at that period because he had a fantastic Champions League run with Arsenal that season before the World Cup in Germany. So with Arsenal, the way I say it, let's be honest with ourselves, Aaron Ramsdale is very good to his best ability. He's not the best Arsenal goalkeeper we've seen, but in the recent years he's been very, very good. He's been an improvement over the ones we've seen before now, but also is very error prone. Raya had a great season at Brentford last year, and to be honest, based on his last 2 performances, the last 2 clean sheets against Everton and of course PSV in the Champions League yesterday, you have to be scratching your head and thinking to yourself, maybe he will be the first choice going forward, because the game against Fulham for Arsenal, I mean, you're asking yourself, what was the goalkeeper doing when that goal came in from Pereira? You're like, a better keeper would have made a better save. And of course, there was another error leading to goals. I can't remember the game as well. So Ramsdale is good, but it's also good to have healthy competition. Now, on the flip side of that argument, it's good to have a number one. There's a reason why it's called number 1 goalkeeper, unquestionable, because you build that confidence from the back that leads through the entire team. Like you mentioned, the spine. You need that. So you can't be chopping and changing your goalkeeper. You can change wingers, midfielders, change shape, your strikers, false nine, all that whole stuff. But you see, your goalkeeper needs to be that guy that gives everybody confidence. Like, okay, don't worry, guys, I have it covered at the back. And like you've said, football has evolved. It's no longer just being a big, strong, tall goalkeeper that makes wonderful saves. Your leg has to be as good as the most creative player in midfield. Like Onana, giving to him, his distribution has been one of the best in the English Premier League for a
He
goalkeeper.
has definitely been as advertised in that regard.
But then again, you now have two duties and two roles. As good as you are with your feet, for a goalkeeper, your primary job is to prevent the ball from going to the back of the net. Onana hasn't done that so well this season, let's be honest. Man U has considered over, 3 plus goals in the last 3 games for the first time since 1978. That is not a good reading for the goalkeeper and also the backline. But for Arsenal, I feel it's fine. I think Raya, for me, if I'm being honest, is a slight improvement. Not overly better than Ramsdale, but I feel he's a slight improvement in terms of calmness and limiting the errors for Arsenal. I feel Arsenal are still a long way from winning the league from Man City. It's not just changing your goalkeeper. They need a proper number 9 like they had Thierry Henry, all those years ago. But until they can fix that, for me, I don't think they're still going to win anything. But the goalkeeping department is fine. There's no problem with that one. I feel it's okay. Raya as first choice is fantastic for Arsenal.
All right.